Hey guys, this is Steve Jones again. I'm going to be sharing a quick word here from James chapter 1 verses 16 and 17. Do not be deceived, my brothers. Every good and every perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. Of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we might be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. So there's a couple things I noticed about this passage. One was it says, do not be deceived. And I think there's a lot of things that we can be tripped up on and get deceived about. One of the things is this, the previous statements. He talked a lot about temptation and the cause or the source of temptation, and that we can't blame God and we can't blame others for why we are giving in or why we are tempted. And James makes it very clear it's our own desires that lead us away and lead us astray. But also looking forward, I think we can be deceived about the Father of lights. And here he says that every good and perfect gift is from above. We know that God's gifts are perfect. There's no flaw in them. And they come from heaven. He says they come down from the Father of lights, of whom there is no variation or shadow of turning. Now there's this idea of lights coming down from heaven, and God gives us his light. He gives us the light of the gospel. He gives us Jesus Christ, the light of the world. He gives us his Holy Spirit, which can then make us lights to the world. So God's gifts, it says there's no variation or shadow of turning. The first time I looked at that, I was confused. I didn't quite grasp why this was put in there. But if you think about it, a shadow is the dark side of a light. And as followers of Christ, I think this passage is saying that if we're going to be receiving God's perfect and holy gifts, his Holy Spirit, that we need to not have shadows and not have a trailing dark side to our heart and our mind and the way we live. We shouldn't be on the one side receiving God's light and on the other side casting a darkness or a shadow. And gifts that God gives us, they're not tainted, they're not perverted, they're not twisted or dark in any way. They're perfect. And so we need to receive his perfect gifts, and then we need to reflect those and have that standard of living. With God's help, I believe we can live in an element or in a way a holy life. I don't think we're going to be perfect, but we need to have that standard, that holiness standard. Jesus commands us to be holy, for I am holy. And so I think it's those shadows, it's those dark areas that you could hold in your heart or keep in your life. It's those dark things that you can keep turning back to, and we need to get rid of all of them because God's gifts are without shadow. He also mentions this in a different way. He says, of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we might be the kind of first fruits of his creatures. First fruits, it was an offering to give God your first part of your harvest. The first fruits had to be without blemish. You couldn't give them your rotten, worm-filled apples or tomatoes. They had to be perfect. And I think James is kind of reiterating the same thing, is that we need to offer to God our lives as first fruits. We need to become without blemish. And so we need to lay aside those dark shadows. We need to overcome of those blemished parts of our life that we practice. So you need to examine your heart and say, Lord, is there any wicked way in me? Is there anything that is dark or evil that I'm holding on to? And then you need to give that over to the Lord and overcome that part of your life and experience the victory that He has purchased for you through the blood of His sacrifice and the power of His resurrection. We need to be living this life that is holy, without shadow, and as a first fruit, we need to live a life that's without blemish. And that's God's will for our lives, is that we would live such exemplary lives that the world would see us and know that we have been in the presence of God and that we are totally changed in every way. And that's, I think, how we can truly be lights to the world. And as he says here, first fruits of His creatures. That's all I wanted to share. I encourage you guys to take a look at your life and just be honest and evaluate, Lord, what is there that I need to really check? And is it my thoughts? Is it the way I view life? Is it the things I'm doing? Is it the ambitions or the goals or how I spend my time? I mean, it could be anything, but we do need to look at it and evaluate it. But that's all I had to share. If you guys like this video, or if you want, put a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. You can hit like, it's that thing, or if you would like, I'm going to be coming out with some new videos hopefully next week. You can hit subscribe, and that should give you some sort of a email or notification that the new video is coming out. Anyways, love you guys. Thanks for watching. God bless.